We got to start with the biggest storyline of the day. Bruce pulls up for three. What was going through your mind when he stops and pulls up for that shot?
Good, because we were trying to get a 2-for-1 situation.
That's what he said.
So I was kind of yelling, go, go, test it. And I didn't know that was, I thought people were really excited. He hit a big shot, but then it kind of stayed loud. So now I was like, okay, maybe that was it. And then I wasn't allowed to go to the locker room. So then I really knew what was happening. And how about Dennis Hobson being here, being able to have that moment, with him, because he certainly deserves to be celebrated through all this too.
You've always said that Bruce is family to you. What was it like witnessing him break the all-time scoring record and leave his mark here forever?
Yeah, it was special. It was special. It was hard. It was emotional when they kind of honored him before the game. I tried really to kind of just be where my feet were when we were celebrating him at halftime, but I was also thinking about adjustments we needed to make for the second half. But yeah, what a special moment, and he really is a part of our family. And so my kids were super excited to see him afterwards and all that stuff.
When you think of Bruce Thornton, and now he gets to be the all-time leading scorer in program history, it feels like he's the definition of a Buckeye. Why is that?
There's so many layers, I think, that it would take to answer that. And you start with someone who stayed loyal to a program, who trusted a first-time head coach, and who cared about getting a degree that he knew and trusted that it could impact him for the rest of his life, because that's something he and I talked about from day one. And then the way he approaches, every single day, how hard he works, the way he treats people. When you look at all the different layers of who he is, what he's accomplished, considering the landscape of college basketball right now, like, that's why he's a forever Buckeye. That's why he's such a representation of what we want to be about as a program. That's why he was the first guy I talked to when I became head coach, because I knew that in order for us to build this the way we want to build it, we needed him here, because he believes in all the stuff that I believe in, and I could lean on him to help lay that foundation.
His mom was extremely emotional after it happened. You say that he's family, but I know his whole family is your family.
She's the best.
Talk about that relationship between the two of them from your perspective.
Yeah, it's been really special to see. And there's been times where she and I have conversations about him, and we're kind of being strategic on who's going to talk to him first and things. But the bond that those two share, is incredible. And Bruce, we talk about family all the time in our program. He embodies that so well because he's from such a tight-knit, close family. And she's so impressive. The amount of time she spends coming back and forth, from Atlanta, and being there for her son, and how she supported him, and never tried to, tell him what to do, just always supported him unconditionally, I think is so impressive. And their bond is one that'll never be broken. It's so special, and she's really special woman.
This team has been really special over the last few weeks here. Feels like it's putting it all together. What has allowed you to be so successful? And you want to peak in March. That's what you always say, and here you are at the peak of the season.
Yeah, I think a lot's gone into that. It starts with the chemistry we have in that locker room, how close our guys are. We have a group of young men who care deeply about each other and this team and the success of this program. And then getting healthier, right? We're not all the way healthy. We're getting closer to being all the way healthy, but getting healthier has helped. And, we've just stayed the course. I think we've trusted each other. We've trusted our work. We've trusted our process. And we've been able to move on quickly from wins or losses. And, we're now seeing, I think, the benefit of all of that stuff combined. And also, we're seeing the benefit from some big-time home environments down the stretch. Something that, we've worked really hard to help build, and Buckeye Nation has responded. These last two home games were big-time environments, and that played a factor in how we played. I really believe that. So, we got momentum. We got to keep it rolling. We got to get ready for the next one, though.
We asked Bruce, he's waited 4 years to play on the biggest stage in college basketball in the NCAA tournament. How proud are you of this group for the fight that they've showed through all the adversity this season?
Yeah, very, very proud of must be seeing in our locker room what I write on the board with fight, because we've embraced that. That's that's been a kind of a key word for us, a key characteristic of how we've played. We played with great toughness and connection, but we've really wanted to have the biggest fight in the game. And our guys have embraced that. So, you know, we're focused on the next one. We got a Big Ten tournament ahead of us. You know, we want to carry this momentum, keep playing well on both sides of the ball, with, you know, more consistency. And, you know, we trust what we've built so far this year and are excited about the opportunities ahead of us in March.
I noticed when you were at Penn State, fight was the only word on the board, so I thought it was probably pretty important. I don't know if you'll take a moment, but I'm curious. Bracketology and everything. If you come to King's bracketology school, you guys are in. And there are a lot of people. Yes, there are a lot of people that agree with that and feel secure about that. Do you take a moment to realize that was the ultimate goal here when you stepped on that stage 2 years ago and took the job, and now you've gotten it?
Yeah, not yet. You know, I think we'll reflect on this season at the end of the year. We're not done yet. You know, I want to keep our tunnel vision, keep our focus that we've had on the next day. And I got to hold myself accountable to that too, you know, because I've got big goals for this program, and that's what keeps me up and working tirelessly to help push the envelope. And so, you know, I think how you do that is you have this relentless approach and work ethic every single day, and you keep driving. Like, my responsibility is to keep driving everybody in that same direction. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And we're going to do that the next day and the next day. And there will be a time, you know, at some point in the off season where we'll sit back and say, okay, these were the things that, you know, we accomplished and did well this year, and certainly celebrate some guys. But that time's not right now. You know, we got a lot of work left to do.
Kind of going off of that, towards the back half of the season, it wasn't a secret. You knew you had to win certain games. How much was that discussed in the locker room of, guys, we're playing with our lives on the line? Was that talked about in that way?
Not exactly in that way. You know, we kept talking about the opportunities that were ahead of us. And part of, you know, we've been talking about blocking out the outside noise. And part of that is, you know, whether you win a game or lose a game, you gotta avoid those extremes that are being, you know, channeled towards us. So we just stayed focused, stayed, you know, with a very consistent approach. But we knew, like we talked about, hey, when we got together in June, we talked about playing in big time games in the end of February and March. So that wasn't something that like was new to us. We've been preparing for that. And it wasn't something we needed to talk about, like, oh, this game's bigger than that, or this game's not as big. No, every game we knew was a great opportunity for us. That's how we approached it, a great opportunity. So we got to prepare as well as we possibly can to make the most of it.
This team, when you've kind of put it together here, and you look at the game at Penn State, you look at today against Indiana, when you're at your best, can you compete with anybody in the country?
I believe so. When we're healthy and, you know, we're playing the way we've played these last few games, and really even some of the games, you know, even before that where we were trending in the right direction, I think absolutely we can. But, you know, again, we focus on us, and we focus on us being our best, and it's being tough, it's having tremendous fight and connection, regardless of who's across from us. You know, that we're focused on the things that we can control and making sure we're doing those things at a high level.
Do you look at this as almost a new season? In a certain extent, regular season's done, next chapter. You know what I mean? Do you look at it that way?
Yeah, we laid out some phases of the season, and we're now transitioning to the next one. It's postseason phase now, and we got, you know, but can't change who we are, right? We can't, like, we got to stay focused, keep moving, and, you know, embrace what this time of year is all about. It's the best time of the year for anybody involved with college basketball. So we're going to embrace it and keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, did you get a bobblehead?
Yeah, I first had two, and my wife was like, "You better not come home with two." There's going to be a battle and fight in our house. Yeah. So we got enough for the kids, and I got one for my office, and then we're good.
Awesome.